Hello all. Good morning. Good evening. So we are starting our syllabus for the elective one, that is the track one, cloud computing. And today we are starting the first lecture, web services. And in this lecture, we will see the details about the web services, the need for the web services. Now I request you to put your name in chat box, so I will get the attendance. And also, if you have any kind of query, you can write down in a chat box, or in next lecture we will be having a lecture on Google Meet, so you can ask at that time. So without wasting any time, let us start our lecture. So hello, so we are starting our cloud topics, and for starting cloud topics, we are supposed to learn web services. So before learning web services, we will see what do we mean by services, what is the definition for the web services. We will compare the web services with other technologies. Then we will go for the web service specification and then web service implementation. So first we will start what is service. We can define a service as an abstract resource that represents a capability of a performing task that represents a coherent functionality from the point of a view of provider entities and the requester entities. So we can say that it should be realized by a concrete provider agent. So here we can define a service as an abstract resource that represents a capability of performing tasks that represents a coherent functionality from point of view of provider entities. Means, for example, suppose if you want to add two numbers, let the two numbers be A and B. You want to add two numbers, so there should be some kind of addition service, and we are supposed to pass two parameters to this service, and as an output we will retrieve the addition of these two numbers. So what is our requirement? The addition of these two numbers, these are to be referred as the input parameters, and one output parameter we will get as a C, which will represent the addition of A and B. So this is a service, means we want to perform a particular task, and we will get the solution of that particular task. It is the only definition of the service. So let us understand the service concepts. So we can say a service is a resource and has an owner. Just like the addition, it is a resource, it is a function, it is a device which is going to take input two numbers and which will provide you the output. So a service is provided by a person or an organization. So service must be realized by a software provider agent, and a service performs one or more tasks. Service is used by a requester agent. So these are the concepts. Means, for example, there should be a owner who is going to manage this kind of service. So there will be a maintenance part of that service. There should be improvisation of this service. Means if you want to add three numbers, then there should be improvisation in that particular method. So this is to be managed by a particular owner. It is to be managed by a particular organization. So we will be having a certain set of rules to that particular service. So what will be the characteristics of service? It should be reusable. It should not be like that one time we are going to use and then we are just scrapping it. It should be reusable regardless or whether the immediate reuse opportunity exists. It may be reusable for a particular set of interval, or it may be used after 1 year, after 1 month, whenever it is required with some kind of correction. So definitely services are reusable. They should be reusable. Services share a formal contract. Basically, whenever you want to add two numbers, there should be a particular method of adding two numbers, and you are supposed to follow that particular method. It is not like that you will define your own method. So there should be a certain set of rules, and that should be followed by, that should be accepted by a particular your service, and then only you can continue with such kind of service. Services are loosely coupled, means there should be a multiple modules, they should be loosely coupled. So basically, if you want to design, or if you want to interact, or if you want to improvise those kind of services, you are not supposed to change many things. Instead of if you suppose, if you want to make if you want to say, I want to now my service is able to add two methods and two numbers, and suppose if I want to make this service to add three numbers, then definitely there should be a particular mechanism which will accept a third number, and which will run this loop for the third number. So this should be a loosely coupled. I don't want to change the entire code, I just want to change a particular set of code, so that service will work. So this is the concept of this. The services are loosely coupled, and definitely the services abstract the underlying logic. Now what is this? This is the only part of this service is visible to the outside world, is what is exposed via service contract. Means if this is the addition concept. Now if you suppose, if I want to define a multiplication service, so let it be a multiplication service. So if I'm passing 2 into 3, so I will get a result 6. So I may do a 2 into 3, or I will add 2 3 times. So result will be 6. Suppose if I want to do 4 into 4, so I have a chance of doing 4 into 4, or I will add 4 times 4. So whatever I am doing, that should be that should be inside my system, but outside people only know like that. Okay, this is a system which is going to return you the product or the output of a product of two numbers. This is the only thing that you are supposed to do in this kind of thing. Then the services are composable. The services may compose other service. This allows a logic to be represented at different levels of granularity, and promotes the reusability and the content and the creation of the abstract layers. So basically, if particular service is used for a thing, means for example, suppose if you want to define the examination system, so there should be two components. One will be defined for the theory, which will input your all the marks for the theory, and one will is defined for the practical, which will input all the practical marks. Then these two services will be combined, and which will produce your result. So definitely this is the one part of your system, this is another part of your system. Both are the web services, or both are the services. So we should able to use both services either individually or with together. So definitely if you are trying to define the services, it should compose with other services, so their input can be treated as or their output can be treated as an input of other system, and so on. So the next point is the services are autonomous. So what is the meaning of autonomous? They are governed by a certain set of rules, or the services. So they should follow that kind of services, and they are supposed to bind to that particular services. These rules may be different for every other services. It is not like that a particular set, there is a particular set of rules which is all for the services. But if there should be some common rules, and there should be some individual rules, but whatever be the condition, those rules should be followed, and that is very important. Then the services are stateless, means once the action is performed, and once the action is finished, then you are not supposed to store the values or any other kind of information. So they should be a very stateless. The services should not be required to manage the state information, as that can impede their ability to remain the loosely coupled. Okay, only if they are stateless, then they can remain the property as a loosely coupled. So the services should be designed to maximize the statelessness, even if that means deferring the state management elsewhere. So this is the one kind of thing that you can do. And then the next thing is the services are discoverable. So definitely if you want to find out a particular service, so the service requester should able to find out that service. It should not be hidden for anywhere. So every service you are supposed to put it as a public, and there might be a private services, but they might be a part of any other public service. So definitely these kind of things that you are supposed to remember. So next point is, what is a web service? So we can define as a services which are used in a web, or which are to be composed, which are compiled in a web structure. We can define as the web services. So they are typically application programming interface, or the web APIs. We can call it as a web APIs that are accessed via HTTP. It's a kind of protocol and executed on a remote system hosting the requested services. So we are going to use the internet, we are going to use the web kind of things, web protocols. So therefore it is to be called as a web services. So web services tend to fall into one or two camps, that is a big web services and the restful web service. We are going to do everything in the detail, but today we are going to see the introduction of the web services and services. So we will focus on these things only. So let us start with the web services. What we mean by web services? It is a definition. Here we have the definition of the defined by the W3C, designed to support the interoperable machine-to-machine interaction over a network. So it is a set of code which is defined as a web service description language. So WSDL is used to describe the web services, and this is written in XML format. We are supposed to write this in XML format. So other systems interact with the web services in a manner prescribed by its description using SOAP messages typically conveyed using HTTP. So we are going to use a certain kind of services which is to be provided by a protocol HTTP with an XML serialization in a conjunction with other web standards. So there are two major classes of web services. We can define as the REST compliant web services and arbitrary web services. The basic thing is a big web services. So these are the extensible markup language. They are exactly the extensible markup language used in a extensible markup language XML. The messages that follow the SOAP standard and have been popular with the traditional enterprise. So they are often a machine readable descriptions of the operations offered by the service written in WSDL. Basically, if you are dealing with big web services, then WSDL is not required for SOAP endpoint, but it is a prerequisite for the automated client-side code generation in a many Java and .NET SOAP framework. So it is a one kind of example. The entire theoretical concept is over here. So just we are just having the introduction of these things. The second point is the RESTful web services. We can define as a representational state transfer that services. We can define as a representational state transfer, that is a REST. They do not require the XML, SOAP or WSDL services and API definition. So what is the primary purpose of these services? The primary purpose of this service is to manipulate XML representation of web resources using uniform a set of stateless operations. So one kind of operation, any kind of operation we can perform with the both things. But if you want to perform the stateless kind of operation, then mostly the RESTful web services are used. It is typically defined a set of HTTP request messages along with a definition of a structure of response messages, usually expressed in XML or JavaScript object notation, that is a JSON format. So we are going to explain. They are not required to define in XML, but we can define it in XML. Or we can also define in JSON format also. So we can, this is the kind of thing in which we can express these services. A style of use, that is three most common styles of use are like a remote procedure calls, service oriented architecture, that is a SOA, and the last thing is a representational state transfer, that is a REST. So what we have in RPC, so in remote procedure call or in remote procedure calls, it presents a distributed function called interface, typically a basic unit of RPC web services in WSDL operation. It is not being loosely coupled because it was often implemented by the mapping of services directly to the language specific functions or the method calls. The examples is a Corba, DCOM and RMI. Now what happens in these kind of things? For example, we are supposed to deal with two kinds of machine. One is the client machine and one is the server machine, or we can say that is a remote machine. It contains your web service or it contains your method. Remote machine is going to send the request to this the client machine is going to send the request to remote machine via by sending some kind of variables required to execute this web service, and we require these web services for this kind of thing. As an example, we can define, we have two machines. One is the client machine and one is the remote machine or server machine, which is to be called as a remote machine. It contains your web service or your application. A client will give a request to this machine with the help of sending the parameters required to execute this web service. This web service will be executed and the result will send to this machine. So there requires a client stub, remote stub, server stubs, all those things which is going to take care of the variables as well as the web services. So these are the things we are going to see these things in a detail also. Or also we are going to perform the practicals, but as of now it is a remote procedure call. A method is situated on some kind of remote machine and you are supposed to use or you are supposed to invoke that remote machine. That is the only concept that you are supposed to use. Then the next is the service oriented architecture. What we have in service oriented architecture, they are supposed to use according to some kind of functions, and there are some predefined functions, and we are supposed to make the communication in the form of messages. Therefore, they are also called as a message oriented services. They are divided into certain kinds of part. Therefore, we are supposed to call them as a loose coupling, and also they are supposed to follow some set of rules as other services do. So we have a WSDL structure defined for the service oriented architecture. The example, the enterprise service buses, which combine the message oriented processing and the web service to create an event driven SOA, we can use. Then the rest, that is a RESTful services, that is a representational state transfer. It attempts to describe the architectures using the use of HTTP by constraining the interface to set of well-known and standard operations like get, post, put and delete. So it is an architecture based on REST that can use the WSDL to describe the SOAP messaging over the HTTP that can be created without using SOAP and at all. A demo is over here. So now just see, we can find out. It is a service consumer. It is a service consumer. It is a service provider. Okay, these are the services, and this is the service description. This is a service registry which is located somewhere, and suppose a service consumer wants to make a particular request. Suppose if you want to perform the addition function, we will do the same function. So that is situated over here as a service, and here we have the service description, and here we have the service registry. So and here also we have to service description. So what service consumer will do, a client will bind and invoke a service from the service provider. Before binding and invoking service, a service consumer need to find that particular service. So how you can find these services? With the help of service registry. So you will make a request, find request. I will denote it with F with the service registry. Okay, but to get to search that particular system, initially a service provider should register those services in service registry. So whenever service provider is creating a service, that will be entered in service registry. So that will be published accordingly. So if that service is in a service registry, then only you can bind and invoke that service. Otherwise, you cannot bind. So creating such kind of service and just publishing that particular kind of service, this is the example of the web service conceptual model. Create a service, make the entry into the service registry, If the client want to consume that service, he will find out that service in the service registry. If found, then they can bind and invoke. Otherwise, you will not get that particular service. Now, what are the components of the web services? So, basically, a web service includes the three basic components. One, we need to find out and register that a particular service. Second, we need to pass the input to that service and we need to retrieve the output from that service. And third one, the transport mechanism to access the services. Now just see here, we are just creating one addition service as we have created. As we have created this service, we need one mechanism which will make the register entry for that particular service. If it is so, then a client will able to search that particular service. Now a client want to send the input will be 2 or 3 variables. So there should be a mechanism which will send the input to this web service, and then there should be a mechanism which will send the output back to your client. So we require the second thing, and the third one, all this kind of transportation means how to find out this service, how to send the variables, how to retrieve these variables. We require such a thing. So definitely we require the three basic components. One, a mechanism to find and register the interest in a service, a definition of a service's input output parameters, and a transport mechanism to access the services. So definitely they also include the other technology that can be used to provide the additional features such as security, transaction processing. If there is any kind of miscommunication, or if there is any kind of a message loss, then definitely they should retrieve accordingly, and such a things are required in such kind of transactions. Then the next thing is a web service process. What we have, a service provider publishes a service in an external registry. Okay, then a client lookups for a service in the registry. The registry returns the information about the service. Client binds to underlying service. Client calls and access to the service. So these are the processes. First, make the registry. Then find out the service from that registry. Then registry returns the call if that particular service is available. Then client binds to that underlying services, and then client calls and access to the services. Now we are going to compare the web services with other technology. Basically, these are not a new technology, so they do not introduce a new functionality. Okay, there is a chance of improving those techniques. Now, how the web services differ from others? First thing, very important, they are lightweight components. Okay, they do not depend on a particular system. We can deal with any kind of heterogeneous system. What is the meaning of heterogeneous system? We should not have a similar kind of configuration between two devices. If it is so, then only we should able to retry those services. So this is a very important. Many kind of services are dependent on the machines. They are suppose there's heavyweight components. We're supposed to have a certain kind of configuration for them, but a web services is not that kind of things. So they are supported by all the major software vendors to fulfill the promise of the universal interoperability, because of having a lightweight as a lightweight component. The next thing, the operations of web services are based on the exchange of XML format. The web services use the normal HTTP transport protocol. They also use the internet protocols such as HTTP, SMTP, FTP. These are available. These are easily available. They are programmed or they are done with the kind of XML things. So definitely they are going to work with the XML format. So they are going to differ with a lot of things with the other kind of services, being a very lightweightness and being very interoperable. Now the standards, definitely what kind of standards or what kind of set of rules? The first thing is a UDDI. Okay, a lookup service which can be used. Then a definition mechanism, that is a web service description language we can use. And the next thing is we are going to communicate with SOAP or REST. Okay, many kind of technologies that can be used. but the foundation of all those technology is a XML. So basically we are supposed to use with this kind of thing. Now, what kind of traditional communication we do? So basically, there's in a case of traditional communication, we will be having a two set of computers. One is to be called as a client, and one is to be called as a server. A client is going to connect with a server. A server is going to accept that connection. Then there will be a communication in form of bytes, integers, hexadecimal scores, whatever they are supporting. So this is a particular way of the traditional communication. If there is a distributed system, if the data is distributed, then there should be a multiple kind of communication. We can retrieve according to the set of rules and regulations and all those things. What we have in XML based communication? Okay, here whenever you are making a communication between client and server, okay, you know the client, a client knows the server, where is the server, he knows the configuration of the server, but in this case we don't know anything about the server. We know only about the service that we are supposed to use that service. We may call a server with the name of that particular service name, and we will get the connectivity. Okay, now if you are making like this, if you don't know where you are going to connect, then your coding or your data or your representation should be well defined and should be well managed. They should be written in a well mannered. Therefore, we are going to use the XML. What is the advantage of XML? It is a well defined set of programming language. We have going to define all kind of data in a well defined format. We can define the representation, all kind of representation in well defined format. Therefore, web service communication relies on XML syntax to write the messages. We don't know the endpoint. We know only the service point, and we are supposed to connect with that service point only. This is the basic thing. That's why we are going to use the XML based communication. So what are the disadvantages? Basically, if you are dealing with such kind of, first the basic disadvantage is that using the internet or using the web technologies. Because any kind of disconnectivity may get you disconnected from your work. So RMI, Corba, DCOM, whatever they are going to use, you are supposed to have a good kind of internet. They are also going to use in a poor performance because of there are many more requests. They might be coming from the any other services, and as they are web services, we are not going to focus on that services more. Therefore, there might be a less chance of having a synchronization, etc., etc. Then they are stateless, meaning they are mostly stateless. So if you have any kind of disconnection, you are supposed to start from the step 1. So these are some kind of disadvantages in web services. Okay, but for PG, for MSc, you will not face all those kind of services because you are dealing with a small kind of practicals. If the practicals or the application are large enough, then only you will face such a kind of issues, otherwise not. Now, what are the properties? The first thing is that they are going to be defined with some kind of XML and HTML. And a server side, it is also a kind of representation in XML or the SOAP based format. So the basic thing is that they will be the self-contained. So we don't require any additional software. We don't require any additional hardware to resolve those web services. So it is a self-contained. They are very loosely coupled. So if you want to change a particular part, you can change that particular part without touching that particular entire web service. Or also you can connect the web services with other web services. You can use one web service to as an input to the other web service. So therefore, it is the example of the loosely coupled web enabled. The web services they are published, located, invoked across the web. We need to publish them, and then they should be reusable. Therefore, they are very much lightweighted internet standards. They are going to be work as a lightweighted things, so that they are to be worked. Now, as we are going to deal with the XML, they will be language independent and interoperable. So, client and server may be implemented in different environment and different languages. Now, what are the web service properties? Again, they are the composable. Web service can be aggregated using workflow techniques. So we can compose many web services together. They are dynamically bound with the help of UDDI and WSDL. So as they are dynamically bound, the discovery and the binding of the web services can be automated. We have the programmatic access. Okay. So and the wrap existing application. Even a standalone application can easily be integrated with web services. It is not like that we are supposed to use with all the remote kind of things. Many, as they are interoperable, we can use them anywhere and as we require. We have seen the disadvantages. Now, where we should use the web services? If the platform are neutral, if they are accessible in a standard way, if they are accessible in interoperable way, use of simple and ubiquitous spamming, they should be cheap, and they should simplify the enterprise and integration. Now, why web services are treated as a hot topic? Because the same thing, interoperable, economic, they're automatic, no human intervention required, even for highly complex transaction, accessible, available, and scalable. You can add many users, or you can improve the scalability in vertical as well as in the horizontal format, so you can get the appropriate things. Then WS uses the application integration. The legacy systems can be wrapped as web services and made available for the integration with other systems. The applications are exposed as a web services that are accessible by other applications running on different hardware platforms, and they can return in any other different languages. So we can utilize all those things, and we can use those things as per our requirement. Then B2B integration, we can, this is one kind of application that we can see, a business to business partner integration over the internet, where two or more companies may use a single web services, or there can be a simple chain management system will be over there. So this is your web service specification. We have the process, description, language, messages. This can be SOAP extensions or SOAP. We have the communication protocols at the down, HTTP. Based technologies like XML, DTD, schema, and there should be a security and as well as the management part. Then what kind of communications layers that we can have in this system? So the web services are essentially transport neutral, as we are not dealing with any kind of things or any kind of technologies that's supposed to be managed with XML. They are supposed to be lightweight component. We're not going to add many more factors in communication layers. That's why they are to be transported using HTTP and HTTPS, as well as more specialized transport mechanisms such as JMS, etc. The web service insulates the designer from the most of the details and implications of the message transport layer. So we can utilize all those things. In messaging layer, we have the SOAP, which is to be called as a simple object access protocol. A protocol to exchange a structured information in a distributed environment. What we have in SOAP extensions, we have two kinds of things. One is a web service reliable messaging. It guarantees the receipt of the message. And the second is a WS transaction, that is web service transaction, a series of standards related to WS invocation in transactions. We'll be having the atomicity, then the consistency, isolation, and durability. The ACID property they are going to be followed. Next is the description layer. So in this we have the web services description language, a language that allows the service provider to specify the functional, what are the characteristics or the extension of this service, a policy, a set of rules, or the set of for the non-functional constraints of the WS, and the resource properties. It defines how to define and access the properties of resources using the web services. Then the process like the discovery, it is going to find out that particular service it is dealing with registry kind of things. So locating a machine processable description of a web service that may have been previously unknown and that meets a certain criteria. Then the UDDI, Universal Description, a discovery and integration. So UDDI defines a way to store and retrieve the information about the web services. This is the one part of thing that you are going to do. The next thing is a very important, that is a web service interoperability. So what we have in this kind of thing? So web services tackles a set of problems that is related to the loosely coupled, dynamically configured and heterogeneous distributed system. So basically there might be a multiple services which may use, there might be a multiple machines which may use a series of services. So if you want to make such kind of services, their services should be loosely coupled and they should be dynamically configured. So the output of one web service can be taken as the input of another service. So in this kind of things, we have a series of smaller purpose focus specification dealing with the narrow problems such as security, transactions, etc. So every time your transaction will be committed, so in any kind of failure, you will be having the back tracing, etc. So this is a very much important thing that you can be working. The next thing is each WS specification is designed to be composed with others, and the WS designers determines which specification their system needs and implement them accordingly. These are all the theoretical concepts and you are supposed to consider these concepts. Then WSI is to standardize the combination of web service specification that can be used to increase the level of interoperability, and it also promotes the basic profiles such as the implementation of guidelines regarding to such as SOAP, WSL, UDDI, etc. So these are the web services standards. We are all these things why we are trying to do for getting access, to get the proper management, for getting the proper integration, to have the quality of services, to have the description, have the discovery, for the messaging purpose and for the transportation purpose. And now how we are going to implement those things. So there will be two kinds of methods. One is the bottom-up method and the second is the top-down method. In bottom-up method, we write the implementing a class in a programming language that uses a WSDL generating a tools to expose its method as a web service. And in top-down method, we write the WSDL documents. So in the first part, we are trying to write a class and then we are going to generate the WSDL SDL, and in the second part we will write a WSDL and we will generate the code using some kind of code generating tool to produce the class skeleton. So both methods are compatible and both methods can be used according to the need. So these are the simple web services where we are supposed to use, and we will see these web services in detail while doing the practicals. So let us read all those things so we will get the idea. A simplest way is to use is a JSE, that is JAX RPC service endpoint. It exposes the Java class directly as a web service. It uses the SOAP endpoint. We are going to use the Apache server for these kind of things, and we are going to use the HTTP protocol. Now, what is this EJB services? It is used with J2E 1.4. The same thing, we are going to use the RPC mechanism which hides the complexity of the SOAP messages from the developer. We are going to do all these things in practical number 2. You will get a better understanding while doing this practical. But as a theory part, just read out those things so you will be having a better understanding. So another thing is the web services JAX WS. We will see everything in the detail. So here we will see the JAX WS point in the detail. So initially you need to generate the WSDL, so which will be published on a server. Then a client will initiate the SOAP request. What SOAP request will do? There will be some kind of endpoint listener. Okay, what endpoint listener will do? He is supposed to find out that particular request. So it will dispatch. Dispatcher will forward this request to towards the JAXB mapping where your web service Java endpoint is there, and from there you will get the actual access to your web service. In return, it will be in a JAXB mapping. So it will form a fault processing message. It will send to the dispatcher. It will send to the endpoint listener, and it will be treated as your SOAP response. So these are the steps where JAX WS will be used. So we are supposed to use all those methods while doing the practical. Now we are going to use the Apache server for this, and application server as a JEE 5 specification. We are also going to use the Glassfish servers also. So this is all about today's lecture. Thank you.